The emergency alarm screamed through the bridge of the EFS Vengeance as Admiral Jake Morrison stood frozen at the main viewport. The stars that had once seemed so welcoming now felt cold and hostile. 3 years had passed since Earth joined the Galactic Council, 3 years of what humanity believed was friendship and cooperation with 12 alien species across the galaxy. Captain Lisa Harper rushed to his side with a datapad in her trembling hands. Her face was pale and her eyes showed the kind of fear that comes from witnessing something unthinkable. She had been monitoring the deep space communication arrays when the first distress signals began flooding in from human colonies scattered across 3 star systems. "Admiral, we're getting reports from Kepler 442b, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The colony went dark 30 minutes ago. Last transmission mentioned unknown ships in orbit before everything cut out." Morrison took the datapad and scanned the information. Colony Director Sam Martinez had sent the final message from Kepler 442b. The colony housed over 200,000 humans, mostly families who had volunteered to help terraform the distant world. They had been building new cities, creating farms, and establishing research centers that would benefit both humanity and their alien partners in the Council. "What about Proxima Centauri?" Morrison asked, though he already feared the answer. "Gone. Silent 45 minutes ago," Harper replied. "Volf 359 stopped transmitting an hour ago." "Sir, that's 3 colonies in 3 different systems. This can't be a coincidence." The bridge crew worked frantically at their stations, trying to establish contact with any human settlement beyond Earth's solar system. The silence was deafening. Each failed attempt to reach their people sent a chill through Morrison's spine. These colonies represented humanity's future among the stars. They were filled with scientists, engineers, farmers, teachers, and children who had dreamed of building something beautiful in the cosmos. Commander Ryan Bell emerged from the intelligence section with a grim expression. He had been analyzing the intercepted communications that their deep space monitoring stations had captured. His findings would change everything humanity believed about their place in the galaxy. "Admiral, you need to see this," Bell said, activating the main display screen. "We intercepted several transmissions between Council species just before our colonies went dark. The messages are in encrypted Zephyrian military codes, but we managed to break them." The screen showed a series of decoded messages between 3 different alien species. The Zephyrians had provided the attack ships. The Thrakari had supplied advanced weapons specifically designed to overwhelm human defenses. The Valdorians had given detailed tactical information about human colony layouts and defensive positions. Morrison read the messages twice before the full horror sank in. The Council had planned this attack for months. They had used their 3-year friendship with humanity to gather intelligence on every human settlement, every defensive system, and every weakness in human technology. The alien ambassadors who had smiled and shaken hands with human leaders had been planning genocide the entire time. "This is impossible," Morrison said, but even as he spoke the words, he knew they were true. "We shared our technology with them. We opened our worlds to their scientists. We trusted them completely." Bell nodded grimly. "The intelligence suggests they've been planning this since the day we joined the Council. Every cultural exchange, every joint research project, every diplomatic meeting was an opportunity for them to study us. They mapped our colonies, analyzed our defenses, and identified our most vulnerable populations." The communications officer suddenly straightened at her station. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Kepler 442b. It's Colony Director Martinez." Morrison rushed to the communication console as the static-filled voice of Sam Martinez filled the bridge. The signal was weak and breaking up, but the words were clear enough to understand. "This is Martinez on Kepler 442b. We're under attack by Council ships. I repeat, Council ships are attacking civilian targets. The Zephyrians hit our power grid first. Then Thrakari ground forces began systematic elimination of residential areas. They're not taking prisoners, they're not giving warnings. They're killing everyone they find." Static interrupted the transmission. for several seconds before Martinez's voice returned, now filled with desperation. "The weapons they're using are designed specifically for human biology. They knew exactly how to hurt us. This wasn't random. This was planned. Tell Earth that the Council betrayed us. Tell them not to trust the alien ambassadors. Tell them to prepare for war because this is just the beginning." The sound of explosions echoed through the transmission. Morrison could hear screaming in the background and the distinctive whine of Thrakari plasma weapons. Martinez's voice became more distant as he moved away from the communication console. "They're breaking through the main doors. I can see them in the corridors. They're killing the children first. They're laughing while they do it. Tell Earth that we fought. Tell them we died as humans should, protecting our families and our future." The transmission ended with a burst of static that seemed to echo through the bridge like a death scream. Morrison stood motionless for a long moment, staring at the communication console as if he could will Martinez's voice to return. But the silence stretched on, broken only by the soft hum of the ship's engines and the quiet sobs of several crew members. "Captain," Harper placed a gentle hand on Morrison's shoulder. "Admiral, what are your orders?" Morrison turned to face his crew. These men and women had served with him for years, had trusted him to lead them through the dangers of space exploration and military service. Now they were looking to him for answers in humanity's darkest hour. "Send an immediate message to Earth Command," Morrison said, his voice growing stronger with each word. "Tell them the Council has betrayed us. Tell them that over 2 million human colonists are dead or missing. Tell them that we trusted the wrong people and now we're paying the price in blood." He paused and looked around the bridge at the faces of his crew. They were afraid, but they were also angry. The same anger that was building in Morrison's chest, like a fire that would never be extinguished. "And tell them that Admiral Morrison and the crew of the Vengeance are requesting immediate authorization to begin hunting down every ship, every station, and every world that participated in this massacre. The Council wanted to see what humans do when they're betrayed. They're about to find out." The bridge crew began carrying out their orders with an efficiency born of years of training and a determination born of righteous fury. Earth would know about the betrayal within hours. The Council would learn about human vengeance soon after. The emergency session of the Global Defense Council convened in the underground bunker beneath Geneva 3 hours after Admiral Morrison's message reached Earth. President Helen Davis sat at the head of the oval table, her face showing the strain of leading humanity through its darkest hour. The holographic displays around the room showed the locations of every human colony that had gone silent. Each red dot representing thousands of dead civilians. General Kyle Roberts stood before the assembled leaders with a datapad containing the full intelligence report. His military bearing could not hide the anger in his eyes as he began his briefing. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. The Council species had used their 3 years of friendship with humanity to gather every piece of information needed to carry out perfect genocide. The biological weapons used against our colonies were specifically designed for human physiology. Roberts explained, his voice steady despite the horror of what he was reporting. The Thrakari developed plasma toxins that target human nervous systems. The Zephyrians created atmospheric processors that convert oxygen into compounds deadly to human lungs. The Valdorians provided gravitational weapons that collapse human bone structure. President Davis studied the reports with growing disbelief. Every detail showed careful planning and malicious intent. The Council had spent 3 years learning how to kill humans efficiently and completely. "How many of our people are gone?" Davis asked quietly. "Current estimates place the death toll at 2.3 million, Roberts replied. 47 colonies have been completely destroyed. Another dozen have been damaged but may still have survivors. We're sending rescue ships to those locations, but we must assume the worst." The room fell silent as the magnitude of the loss settled on everyone present. These were not just numbers on a report. These were teachers and doctors, engineers and farmers, parents and children who had volunteered to build humanity's future among the stars. They had trusted the Council's promises of friendship and cooperation, and that trust had led them to their deaths. Secretary of Defense Maria Lopez spoke up from across the table. What about our ambassadors and trade representatives on Council worlds? Are they safe? We're recalling all human personnel immediately, Roberts answered. Ambassador Johnson and his staff left the Zephyrian capital 2 hours ago. Trade representative. Clark is en route from Thurkari space. We're pulling everyone back to Earth until we can assess the full scope of the threat. President Davis nodded and turned to the intelligence director. What do we know about their military capabilities? Can they strike Earth directly? Captain Nicole Green stepped forward with classified files that had been sealed since humanity first made contact with alien species. Her expression was grim but determined as she began revealing secrets that had been hidden from the public for years. Madam President, humanity has not been idle during our 3 years in the Council. Green sighed. While we publicly shared certain technologies with our alien partners, we maintained several classified research programs. We studied their ship designs, analyzed their weapon systems, and prepared contingency plans for exactly this scenario. She activated a holographic display showing detailed schematics of Council ships and weapons. Every system had been analyzed and cataloged by human scientists who had been working quietly in the background, while diplomats smiled and shook hands with alien representatives. We know their weaknesses, Green continued. Zephyrian shields operate on specific frequency patterns that can be disrupted. Thurkari armor has molecular gaps that can be exploited with the right weapons. Valdorian ships rely on predictable power distribution systems that can be overloaded. President Davis leaned forward with interest. Are you saying we can fight them? More than that, Green replied. We can defeat them. But first, I need to brief you on the Phoenix Project. The President's eyes widened. The Phoenix Project was so classified that only a handful of people knew it existed. It had been developed as humanity's ultimate insurance policy against extinction-level threats. Dr. Alex Turner, the project's director, emerged from the secured elevator with a briefcase handcuffed to his wrist. He had been working in the deepest levels of the bunker for 3 years, preparing for a day that everyone hoped would never come. The Phoenix Project began the moment we made first contact with alien species, Turner explained as he opened the briefcase. We knew that joining a galactic community would expose us to dangers we couldn't imagine, so we prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. He activated a holographic display showing advanced weapon systems that looked decades ahead of current human technology. Ships with adaptive armor that could learn from enemy attacks. Weapons that could disrupt matter at the molecular level. Defense systems that could protect entire star systems from invasion. We've been reverse engineering alien technology and combining it with human innovation, Turner continued. The result is a military force that the Council has never seen and cannot predict. They studied our public technology, but they know nothing about our hidden capabilities. General Roberts smiled for the first time since the briefing began. How long until these systems are operational? They've been operational for 6 months, Turner replied. We've been secretly upgrading our fleet and training our personnel. The Council thinks they're facing the same ships and weapons they analyzed 3 years ago. They're about to discover how wrong they are. President Davis stood and walked to the window overlooking the underground command center. Hundreds of military personnel were working frantically to coordinate humanity's response to the genocide. She could see the determination in their faces, the same determination that had carried humans from caves to the stars. The Council made a fatal error, Davis said quietly. They assumed that because we were peaceful, we were weak. They confused our desire for friendship with inability to defend ourselves. They're about to learn the difference. She turned back to the assembled leaders and military commanders. I'm authorizing Protocol 7, recall all human personnel from Council space immediately. I'm also activating the Lazarus Protocol. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier we have is now dedicated to one purpose, making the Council pay for what they've done to our people, General Roberts saluted. "What are our rules of engagement?" President Davis was quiet for a long moment before answering. "Find every ship, every station, every world that participated in the genocide of our colonies. Show them the same mercy they showed our children. Leave nothing standing." The room erupted in activity as orders were transmitted to military units across the solar system. Admiral Morrison would have his authorization within the hour. The Council had chosen to make this a war of extermination. They would discover that humanity could play that game better than anyone. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Zephyrian territory like ghosts materializing from the void. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of the EFS Vengeance, watching as his ships took their positions in perfect formation. These were not the same vessels that the Council had studied and catalogued 3 years ago. Every ship had been upgraded and modified with technology that would have seemed impossible to their former alien allies. Lieutenant Commander Pete Williams reported from the engineering station with excitement in his voice. The fleet's chief engineer had spent months working on the upgrades that would give humanity the advantage they needed. His modifications combined human innovation with reverse-engineered alien technology in ways that no Council species had ever imagined. All ships report ready for combat operations, Williams announced. The adaptive shielding systems are online and learning from local energy signatures. Kinetic bombardment arrays are charged and targeted. Quantum jamming fields are active across all vessels. Morrison nodded with satisfaction. The quantum jamming technology was perhaps their most important advantage. Once activated, it would prevent any faster-than-light communication or escape from the battle zone. The Council species would face each human attack in isolation, unable to warn their allies or coordinate their defenses. The first target was the Zephyrian mining station at Rigel 7. Intelligence reports indicated that the strike fleet responsible for destroying Kepler 442b had been assembled at this location. The station housed over 50,000 Zephyrian workers and military personnel, along with the industrial facilities used to build the ships that had murdered human colonists. Captain Beth Rogers commanded the assault force from the EFS Retribution. Her ship had been equipped with the most advanced stealth systems humanity had ever developed. The Zephyrians had provided detailed scans of human stealth technology during their 3 years of supposed friendship, but they had no idea how far human science had progressed in secret. "Beginning final approach to target," Rogers reported. "Over the secure communication channel. Enemy sensors show no indication of detection. They're operating under normal mining protocols with minimal defensive alerts." Morrison watched the tactical display as Rogers' ships moved into position around the mining station. The Zephyrians had built their facility in the asteroid belt, using the rocky debris as natural camouflage and protection. They had never imagined that human ships would be able to navigate the dangerous field without being detected. The station commander opened a communication channel as the human ships decloaked simultaneously around his facility. His voice carried the casual confidence of someone who believed he was dealing with a routine diplomatic contact. "Unknown vessels. This is Commander Vexstar of Rigel, Mining Station 7. Please identify yourselves and state your business in Zephyrian space. We were not expecting any Council ships in this sector." Morrison activated the main communication array and broadcast his response across all frequencies. His voice was cold and final, carrying the weight of 2.3 million human deaths. "This is Admiral Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. You participated in the genocide of human colonies. Your ships were built here. Your weapons were tested here. Your personnel planned the murder of our children here. There will be no negotiation. There will be no surrender. There will be no mercy." The Zephyrian commander's voice changed from casual confidence to panic as he realized what was happening. "Wait, we can discuss this. There must be some misunderstanding. We followed Council directives. We were protecting galactic stability. Your species was expanding too quickly." "Our species was building homes and schools," Morrison replied. "Your species chose to destroy them. Now you face the consequences of that choice." The battle began with surgical precision. Human weapons, designed specifically to counter Zephyrian shielding technology, cut through their defenses like plasma. Through paper, the adaptive systems analyzed enemy weapon signatures in real time, adjusting defensive parameters faster than any organic mind could comprehend. Rogers coordinated the assault with deadly efficiency. Her ships moved in perfect synchronization, targeting critical systems while avoiding areas that might contain civilian workers. But as the intelligence reports had indicated, the station was primarily a military installation disguised as a mining operation. The Zephyrian defensive platforms opened fire with their plasma cannons, filling space with brilliant streams of energy. Their shots struck human shields and dissipated harmlessly as the adaptive systems learned and countered each attack pattern. Within minutes, the human shields had become completely immune to Zephyrian weapons. Commander Vextar made one final, desperate plea as his station's defenses crumbled around him. "Please, we have families here. We have children. Show mercy." Morrison's response echoed across all communication channels. "You showed no mercy to our families. You killed our children first. You laughed while you did it. The time for mercy ended when you chose genocide." The station's reactor core exploded in a brilliant flash that could be seen from 3-star systems away. The debris field that had once been a thriving military installation scattered across the asteroid belt, joining the cosmic dust that had witnessed humanity's first act of vengeance. Commander Tony Adams reported from the second wave of ships, as they engaged 3 more Zephyrian installations in nearby systems. His results were equally decisive. The human fleet had become a precision instrument of retribution, striking with overwhelming force while leaving no survivors to warn their allies. Installations at Vega 4, Altair 2, and Procyon 6 have been neutralized, Adams announced. No enemy ships escaped. No distress signals were transmitted. The quantum jamming held throughout all engagements. Morrison studied the tactical reports with grim satisfaction. Each destroyed facility had been involved in the planning or execution of the genocide. The humans had done their homework, identifying every participant in the Council's betrayal through 3 years of careful intelligence gathering, but this was only the beginning. The Zephyrians had provided the ships, but the Thrakari had supplied the weapons and the Valdorians had given tactical support. Every species that had participated in the genocide would face the same fate as the mining stations. The human fleet began moving toward their next targets, leaving behind only debris and silence. Word was already spreading through Zephyrian space about the mysterious attacks, but the quantum jamming prevented any coordinated response. Each installation would face the human fleet alone. Just as the human colonies had faced their attackers alone, Morrison looked out at the stars and thought about the children who had died on distant worlds. Their deaths would not be meaningless. Every Council installation that burned was a monument to their memory. Every enemy ship destroyed was justice for their stolen futures. The Council had chosen to make this a war of extermination. They were about to learn that humanity could play that game better than anyone in the galaxy. The human fleet had grown larger and more dangerous with each victory. What had begun as a single battle group under Admiral Morrison's command had evolved into a massive armada that stretched across 3-star systems. Every destroyed Council installation provided new resources, technology, and intelligence that made the fleet stronger and more capable. Captain Danny Foster led the assault force approaching the Thrakari, homeworld of Kethver. His ships had been modified with salvaged alien technology, creating hybrid vessels that combined human innovation with captured Council systems. The Thrakari had believed their homeworld was protected by the most advanced defensive network in the galaxy, but they had never faced an enemy that learned and adapted from every encounter. The orbital defense platforms surrounding Kethver were impressive monuments to Thrakari military engineering. Massive structures bristling with plasma cannons and particle beam arrays that could destroy entire fleets. Energy shields that could deflect asteroid impacts. Automated systems that could track and eliminate thousands of targets simultaneously. Foster studied the defensive layout from his command chair aboard the EFS destroyer. The Thrakari had spent centuries perfecting these defenses, and they had never been successfully breached by any enemy force. But the Thrakari had made the same mistake as their council allies. They had underestimated humanity's capacity for innovation and adaptation. "All ships report ready for engagement," Foster announced to his fleet commanders. "Remember, we're not just fighting for revenge anymore. We're fighting to ensure that no other species ever suffers what our colonies endured." The battle began with a spectacular display of firepower as the Thrakari defense platforms opened fire simultaneously. Thousands of plasma bolts and particle beams lit up the space around Kethver like a deadly fireworks show. The energy output was enough to power entire star systems, all focused on destroying the approaching human fleet. But the human ships had been equipped with adaptive shielding that learned from each attack. Every plasma bolt that struck their shields provided data about Thrakari weapon signatures. Every particle beam that connected helped the human computers develop countermeasures. Within minutes, the defensive barrage that should have obliterated the human fleet was becoming less and less effective. Commander Lisa Hayes reported from the EFS Vengeance as her ship pushed through the defensive perimeter. Her vessel had been equipped with experimental technology that allowed it to phase through solid matter for brief periods. The Thrakari had never encountered anything like it, and their targeting systems couldn't lock onto a ship that kept shifting between dimensions. "Defensive grid is showing signs of confusion," Hayes announced. "Their automated systems are having trouble tracking our movements. Recommend we press the attack while they're still trying to adapt." Foster nodded and gave the order for the second wave to advance. The human fleet moved with perfect coordination, each ship covering the others while exploiting weaknesses in the Thrakari defenses. They had become a single organism moving through space, responding to threats with inhuman precision and speed. The Thrakari fleet commander sent out a general communication as his defenses began to crumble. His voice carried the desperation of someone who had suddenly realized that everything he had believed about galactic military power was wrong. "Unknown human vessels? This is Fleet Commander Gorthuk of the Thrakari Defense Force. We are prepared to negotiate a ceasefire. We can discuss terms that benefit both our species. This conflict serves no one's interests." Morrison's response was broadcast across all frequencies, his voice carrying the weight of millions of human deaths. "You participated in the genocide of our colonies. You developed weapons specifically designed to kill human children. You celebrated while our people died. The time for negotiation ended when you chose to become murderers." The Thrakari commander tried again, his voice now showing clear panic. "We were following council directives. We were protecting galactic stability. Your species was expanding too rapidly. We had to maintain the balance of power." "The balance of power is about to shift permanently," Morrison replied. "You're looking at the new reality of this galaxy. Humanity remembers every betrayal, every death, every broken promise, and we respond accordingly." The battle raged for hours as the Thrakari threw everything they had at the human fleet. Their most advanced warships joined the fight, using experimental weapons that had been developed in secret laboratories. They tried ramming attacks when their weapons proved ineffective. They even attempted to use their own ships as suicide bombs to take out human vessels, but nothing worked. The human fleet had become something beyond conventional military understanding. Every tactic the Thrakari employed was countered within minutes. Every weapon they fired was analyzed and neutralized. Every desperate strategy was anticipated and defeated. Dr. Sarah Kim worked frantically in the intelligence section of the EFS Vengeance, analyzing captured Thrakari data files. Her discoveries had been growing more disturbing with each system. They conquered. The genocide wasn't just about territory or resources. The Council had been planning something far more sinister. "Admiral, you need to see this," Kim announced, her voice shaking with horror. "I've been examining captured Thrakari archives. The genocide wasn't their final plan. They were studying human genetics, planning to use our biological material for their own enhancement programs after the extermination was complete. Morrison felt a cold fury settle in his chest as he read the reports. The Council hadn't just wanted to kill humanity. They had wanted to steal human genetic advantages and incorporate them into their own species. They had viewed humans as nothing more than raw materials for their own improvement. How many of our people did they experiment on? Morrison asked quietly. Based on these records, they captured several thousand humans from the outer colonies before the main attacks began. Kim replied. They were testing human pain tolerance, studying our healing factors, analyzing our immune systems. They were planning to become us while erasing us from existence. The revelation spread through the human fleet like wildfire. Every ship commander, every crew member, every soldier understood that they weren't just fighting for revenge anymore. They were fighting to ensure that humanity's sacrifice would serve a purpose, that their people's deaths would prevent other species from suffering the same fate. The orbital defenses around Kethver finally collapsed under the sustained human assault. The defensive platforms that had protected the Thrakari homeworld for centuries exploded in brilliant flashes of light. The energy shields that had deflected countless attacks flickered and died. The automated systems that had seemed invincible fell silent one by one. Foster looked down at the planet below and thought about the human children who had died in Thrakari laboratories. Their sacrifice would not be forgotten. Their deaths would be avenged. The Thrakari would learn that some betrayals carry consequences that echo across the galaxy. The massive station known as Unity Prime had once been the symbol of galactic cooperation and peace. Built at the intersection of 12 major hyperspace routes, it served as the political heart of the Council Alliance, where representatives from all member species gathered to make decisions that affected billions of lives across the galaxy. Now it would become the graveyard where the Council's dream of galactic dominance died in fire, and steel. Admiral Morrison divided his fleet into 3 attack groups as they approached the station. The human armada had grown to over 300 ships, each one upgraded with technology salvaged from destroyed Council installations. They moved through space like a dark tide of vengeance, carrying the fury of 2.3 million dead colonists toward their final target. Captain Steve Martinez commanded the first wave from the EFS Justice. His ships were equipped with advanced disruption, weapons that could tear apart the molecular bonds holding matter together. The Council had never seen anything like these weapons because they had been developed in secret human laboratories, while alien ambassadors smiled and shook hands with Earth's leaders. Commander Linda Thompson led the second wave aboard the EFS Retribution. Her vessels carried gravitational manipulation devices that could create artificial black holes or crush entire ships with localized gravity fields. The technology had been reverse-engineered from captured Valdorian equipment and improved with human innovation. Morrison himself commanded the final assault group from the EFS Vengeance. His ships represented the ultimate evolution of human military technology, combining 3 years of captured alien systems with humanity's natural talent for adaptation and improvement. They were no longer purely human vessels, but something new and terrifying that the galaxy had never seen before. Unity Prime bristled with defensive systems from all 12 Council species. Zephyrian energy shields surrounded the station like glowing cocoons. Thrakari weapon platforms extended from the superstructure like mechanical tentacles. Valdorian gravity wells created distortions in space that could trap approaching ships. The combined defensive network represented the pinnacle of Council military engineering. The Council fleet that defended, Unity Prime outnumbered the human force 3-1. Ships from every member species had gathered to make their final stand against the creatures they had tried to exterminate. They had brought their most advanced vessels, their most experienced crews, and their most powerful weapons. They believed that superior numbers and combined firepower would overwhelm the human attackers. They were wrong. The battle began with the Council fleet launching a coordinated assault that filled space with energy beams, plasma bolts, and exotic particle weapons. The combined firepower was enough to destroy entire star systems, all focused on the approaching human ships. The light from the weapons fire was visible from neighboring solar systems as two vastly different philosophies of warfare met in the void. But the human fleet had evolved beyond conventional military understanding. Every destroyed Council installation had taught them new lessons about alien technology and tactics. Every captured enemy ship had provided new systems to analyze and improve. Every battle had made them stronger, faster, and more deadly. Martinez led his ships through the defensive perimeter with surgical precision. The disruption weapons tore apart Council shields at the molecular level, creating gaps that shouldn't have been possible according to known physics. The enemy defensive systems couldn't adapt fast enough to counter weapons that operated on principles they had never encountered. Thompson's gravitational weapons created chaos in the Council formation, as artificial gravity wells pulled ships out of position and crushed others against the station's superstructure. The Valdorians, who had developed the original technology, watched in horror as humans used their own inventions against them with devastating effectiveness. The Council leaders broadcast a final plea for mercy as their defenses crumbled around them. The transmission came from the station's command center, where representatives from all 12 species had gathered to coordinate their last stand. Human forces, this is Speaker Velther representing the Galactic Council. We surrender unconditionally. We offer complete submission to human authority. We will provide any resources, any territory, any compensation you demand. Just spare our worlds and our people. Morrison's response was broadcast across the entire battle zone and transmitted to every Council world within communication range. His voice carried the finality of absolute judgment as he delivered humanity's verdict on the species that had betrayed their trust. You had your chance for mercy when our ambassadors trusted your friendship. You had your opportunity for peace when our colonists shared their homes with your scientists. You chose to respond to our trust with genocide. You chose to answer our friendship with betrayal. You chose to experiment on our children and laugh while they died. Now you face the consequences of those choices. The Council leaders made one final desperate attempt at negotiation. Please, we can rebuild together. We can create a better galaxy. We can learn from our mistakes and ensure this never happens again. The galaxy will learn from your mistakes, Morrison replied. It will learn that betrayal has consequences. It will learn that some species cannot be trusted. It will learn that humanity remembers everything and forgives nothing. Unity Prime's destruction was visible from 3 star systems away. The station that had once symbolized galactic cooperation became an expanding cloud of superheated plasma and twisted metal. The political heart of the Council burned in the void, taking with it the leadership of 12 species who had learned too late that humanity's capacity for both compassion and wrath knew no bounds. The surviving Council worlds received Morrison's final message within hours of Unity Prime's destruction. The transmission was brief and absolute, carrying the weight of humanity's new position in the galaxy. This is Admiral Morrison of the Human Defense Force. The Galactic Council is dissolved. Any species that wishes to continue existing will submit to human authority immediately. Any species that chooses resistance will share the fate of Unity Prime. You have 24 hours to decide. 5 years later, Morrison stood on the observation deck of New Terra Station, built from the salvaged remains of Unity Prime. The galaxy was quieter now, more respectful. The surviving Council species had learned to fear the consequences of broken promises and betrayed trust. The memorial walls in the station's central plaza listed the names of every human who had died in the genocide. Their sacrifice had not been meaningless. They had died as members of a peaceful species that trusted too easily. They were remembered as the reason humanity would never make that mistake again. The galaxy had learned that humanity could be the most generous of friends and the most terrible of enemies. The choice of which they encountered depended entirely on how they chose to treat the species that had risen from a small blue world to become the arbiters of galactic justice.